Paul Machano.
And I'm Bryce Mahoney.
I'm just Mike Schlitz.
And welcome to Leather Talk. Leather Talk.
Leather.
If you want to talk while sitting in leather,
On
I
leather.
highly recommend you watch Leather Talk.
I feel like we're just going to create our own.
It's
I
going
mean,
to
morph
get
into
bigger and bigger and bigger.
I mean, it brings me back to like when Wayne's World went pro, and like they had an actual
Wayne's
theme song.
World,
Yeah,
Wayne's
with that
World,
person,
it's
you're like,
party
oh.
time. It's excellent.
Who would we cast if we had our chance to write and create the Leather Talk intro song? That's the question.
Wow, that is a good question.
That's a good question.
Like, does the question involve anybody, like past, present, live, dead, or does it have...
maybe we could do like a contest. Hey, you want to write this song for Leather Talk?
I think we should.
There
We
you
probably need a Leather Talk intro. Do you have any recommendations? People you know that would be able to throw together a Leather Talk
Not that
jingle?
I personally know them, but people I stalk, sure. I mean, Lady Gaga, I
feel like
that would be pretty.
I really feel like if there's anybody that could get us like, a name, named star,
It's
it would be
probably
this person
Schlitz.
right here. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if you sleep outside their house long enough, you're bound to meet them.
He's asking them, they're like, are they disabled? He's like, not technically.
Depends on your definition. With a big scope.
So thanks for coming out on the show, man. We've known each other for a long time. You've known Bryce for a long time. You want to tell everybody like what you're doing right now and kind of who you are, why you know us, and that kind of stuff?
Well, some people might say I'm a disabled veteran, but really, I'm just handy capable. No, we go
That's a
back to what, 02, 03, and at RTB and Fort Benning, Georgia. And
The hard streets of RTB.
Yeah, sweating our balls off. Always a good time.
We were in the gym together all the time.
Yes, making eye contact during spots.
Yeah, but
That's great.
not touching each other necessarily.
No, just eye contact, but it's fine.
But at that point, you're still just like in the same unit. This is like you guys aren't friends, other than work colleagues.
No,
stuff like that, right? Yeah.
I mean, I was an enlisted guy, officer,
So, yeah,
so we didn't like to
definitely
cross over too much.
I went into the gym just to stand on like boxes and put my hands on my hips and just kind of look out on everyone, like 30 minutes at a time, and then I would leave.
But you gotta remember, this was like 17 years ago,
Yeah.
so it's a little bit more chiseled back then.
I was chiseled.
I'm just saying.
I
I was pretty chiseled at
Seemed
that
like-
point in time.
Yeah, 2001, 2002, Nick.
Yeah. I had abs. I could run fast. I can still run fast, but only for very short distances.
Like carried in the car for
hey.
training.
Why are we doing this? Yeah.
No, so 14 years in the military. I had gotten blown up in Iraq back in 07. Medically retired in 2010, and just kind of happened to fall into professional speaking. Corporate, veteran stuff, and was doing veteran advocacy work. Obviously, I had known Carl Munger, Bryce's boss.
Carl is the man.
Loved Gallant Few.
Bryce is a man.
Bryce is kind of like the stepchild you never wanted.
Yeah.
But
right.
we have to keep him around, so it's all right.
That's it.
He comes in handy every now and again and run to the fridge to get you a beer.
I'm like one grade up from the intern.
Sure.
In my mind.
As we've said before, Bryce is always there for you if you need something. For example,
Cut out.
if you need someone to help you fix a bathroom, Bryce is a person that you could call,
But shouldn't.
but should not.
Because I don't do that stuff anymore.
Bryce, do you want to tell everybody the magical story of the time that you helped me with?
Yes, the magical story of the time I helped Nick fix a bathroom floor. I decided to cut through the main hot and cold water lines and the electrical coming into the house with one fell swoop of a Sawzall. And we spent the rest of the evening putting the floor back together to square one. So
I had a time of period allotted so that I could pull the floorboards out, replace them, put the new toilet in. Like, I had a plan. Bryce came in. He's got contracting experience. Came in and said, this is going to take forever.
hold my beer.
Do it my way. And 30 seconds later, what should have been a 5-hour job to do the whole bathroom turned into a 10-hour job?
Yeah.
10-hour job.
10 hours to get back.
Just to
start.
get back to where
Just
we
to get back
started
to the
30
start.
seconds earlier.
No, that was definitely the prime example of just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah. But we learned a lot of lessons about life then.
We did. We had lots of good conversations.
But that sounds like a typical contractor to me.
It does.
If you get paid by the hour,
Yeah.
why just 5 hours and not 10? I just double my
plus up
money
those
if I were.
plus up those numbers, for sure.
That's how you know he actually has contract experience.
But the moment, like, the moment when, like, he just one motion just takes the saw and you just first the lights go like the lights are out and then you just hear
The rushing of water.
And
the
then-
release of the hot water.
and then the steam comes out. And so like all of it at once. It was like, oh, we hit the electrical. Then it was like, and there's the cold water, and there's the hot.
The only benefit behind this, I think, the only saving from
Go on,
creating a massive catastrophe.
Tell us the
was
positive.
the fact that the water went under the house and not into the house.
That is true. It dumped into the crawl space,
Which was dirt and sand and
Yes.
dissipated. So
Yes.
thank God I wasn't
Yeah.
that idiotic.
yeah,
So
it could have been worse.
don't let me do any work on your house. That's what I'm
true.
telling everybody.
Bryce, when we moved into this new office, Bryce volunteered to help put up you've seen them, the shelves.
Oh,
right?
they're beautiful, yeah.
He was like, hey, I'll come and help you. And I was like,
No thanks.
I think I'm going to hire a professional. We had,
Glad
a,
he did.
we had a nice man come in, and he did it. He built a little truss and everything. He put the shelves in. They looked great. We kept our electrical and our water the entire time. It was nice.
Amazing.
Sorry.
No, so
And I didn't even know this story, but I was smart enough when Bryce stays at my house in Georgia, I only let him change the batteries in the fire
I can't
detectors.
even do that. Apparently, I can't even do that. So,
He did have to have Carl help him on one of them,
but that's pretty cool. That starting in 2002, you guys knew each other from the same unit. Now, full circle comes around. You're doing speaking.
And
you're
he
doing
actually had a
arrangement.
very good reputation. He was
Yeah.
well thought of and
Yeah.
liked.
I don't
know.
think I've ever heard anyone speak it.
which that was 2002 to 2005 Schlitz. Now I'm not well
Yeah,
thought of
that's
or liked, but
No, you're total garbage now. But back then, you were a really good dude.
Yeah. So you
No,
guys reconnected, and now
Right.
you're.
well, and when you start Ranger Up, and through social media, I mean, that was my recovery time from being injured. So I had a lot of time to scroll Facebook, and you guys were doing your funny videos, and so we reconnected through social media and through Ranger Up. I mean, that's what brought us back together.
We did like an event or something together though, like early on. I don't remember what it was. Do you?
Man, we've actually done a lot.
We've
But
done
I mean,
a lot,
there's,
but I mean-
I mean, there was some even
Gotta
early
believe
fights.
it's something to do with
and-
fighting.
It was
Fight.
fight.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
that's
'Cause
right.
I'm
You
thinking
came-
of a picture of you guys.
You came
An early
to-
picture.
I mean, there was Chicago.
Was it Strike Force?
It was. I've been to a couple of the Strike Force, but the one where we were in,
It could have been
Like-
it was either IFL, Strike Force,
It
or,
was Strike
or it
Force.
was the one at Mohegan Sun, the Indian Reservation.
no, it wasn't that one.
Wasn't that?
But
So Strike Force.
it was definitely Strike Force because
Yeah.
I mean, I went to. I think there was the one in L.A.
Was it-
there was Chicago.
I think it was when Tim fought the goat. Nick the goat. I'm blanking on his last name right now.
Was that L.A.?
I think that was Chicago.
Okay,
I think that was Chicago. Or something like
Yeah.
that.
so
Nick
I don't
the-
know. There's been a few of them.
Nick the Goat Thompson.
That was it. Yep.
That was it.
Interesting.
And so, with Gallant Few helping Carl, we came out here to visit you at
Yep.
Ranger Up a few times
Yep.
with Carl, and then it just
We
kind
were
of
a
grew.
founding partner of Gallant Few.
Yes, you are.
Charter member, I believe.
Yep.
They don't just give that away.
No, they don't.
Actually, they kind of do.
No.
And then you could kind of
Not
say life took a change in 2010 when I met Gary Sinise on the set of CSI New York.
Here he goes, name dropping again.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's my only
I thought I had a
celebrity
cool
friend.
boss.
Except for no, I'll pull out my list. But me and him headed off, and I was doing the veteran advocacy and the speaking, and Gary Sinise Foundation really founded in 2011, and in early 2012 he's like, well, when you can come speak for me, like when you ask, and I went and did a fundraiser, invited Carl to come out with me out in DC, and Gary called me the next day and was like, hey, come be one of my ambassadors. And they're kind of like volunteers that can speak on behalf of Gary at different functions and events. And it was quite the honor. And then a few months later, he offered to build me a house in Georgia. And, that was very, very humbling. And 2 years later, it was done. And then 3 years later, I took a full-time job at Gary Sinise Foundation as their military and veteran resource manager. And for some reason, they recently promoted me to associate director of outreach. So things just keep kind of rolling. I hate to say, don't know where another 5 years, 10 years is going to take me, but it's been a fun journey.
For those of you that don't know, Schlitz here is a machine. He is both inspiring and cutting all at the same time. He's kind of like an Italian mom in that he's not going to tell you what you want to hear. He's going to tell you what you need to hear in order to get where you want to go.
And maybe a little slap.
He's been very harsh with me at some low points in my life, but to good effect.
Absolutely.
He's a good guy to have around.
I'm like the opposite of a hype man, though.
Yeah, you're not a hype man. Like even with things,
you need your ego built. That's not.
Yeah. Like I remember, like I was having like a really stellar like series of things that were happening. Like the movie was coming to fruition, business was good, had a new baby, and like I'm like life is good right now. And Schlitz like just smacks me with that metal hook right there in the gut. It was like, you need to start running range. I was like, come on, man.
I was on cloud nine.
Come on. Life was good, But, you've impacted a lot of people. Like, I mean, that's just like that, a lot of, I'm sure you get stroked a lot for doing this stuff. But, why do you think you are as effective as you are when other people trying to do similar things, I'm not going to say fall short, but they're not having the efficacy that you have?
Really, it comes down to one thing: my looks, my stunning good looks. I really think that's what it is. I mean, I can walk into a room, people instantly know who I am.
I don't though.
I do. I think, when people see me, there's a little bit of compassion and they want to help, so they pay attention a little bit more. I think initially it is based off the looks.
Like the softening of their heart enough to at least get past the engagement aspect of it.
Right.
Because I feel like the majority of people aren't even tuned in at the surface level. So, using that little bit of entrance for you.
So I think it's opened a lot of doors for me. And I think when I go and speak, initially that's what brings them in. And then hopefully the message carries it all the way through. But I think if you look at veterans just in medical care, the guys who are more physical are probably going to go in the back and see the doctor before those who aren't. That guy could be seriously messed up. But the ones with physical disfigurements seem to get more attention. I think, I use that to my advantage, through veteran advocacy and trying to make impact and change. I've traveled with Bryce to conventions. When I walk in a room, I don't have to go around to people. They come to me.
It's very nice.
Okay.
It is great. And so because they come to me, I can make that voice and use my voice for better.
So I can see that, but I do think you're cutting yourself short because, and I don't want this to sound callous, but I've been around this community for a long time. So I've gone to tons of charity events. With that, typically will come somebody that has lost eyesight, limb, has been burnt, whatever. It's not like just because they have those things, when they get up and speak, like everyone that's not in the community, sure, like they're more touched. But if you're in the community, like those messages are like always kind of the same. And I'm not crapping on people. I think everybody's doing their best, speaking from their heart, trying to do good things. But man, I've heard you speak like, I don't know, 20 times. And every time it's like on point, different. And I'm listening, and I know you, and I don't want to hear you anymore. But like I'm engaged, and so like, what is it that you think that you do differently? I'll keep pushing you until this is no longer fun to talk about.
Well, no, I think I have a lot of experiences. People talk on experiences. If you heard my speeches early on, it was all based about getting blown up and the recovery, and through veteran advocacy, it becomes the other people's story. It's not my story. It's what about that guy struggling, or what about this female who can't get medical care or is homeless? It's their stories. It's them doing it. Or what's the big picture? How do we change things? So it becomes less about you and more about what is really needing to happen. And then because I've worked with Gallant Few and Gary Sinise Foundation and done my own thing, I have those experiences across the board, Capitol Hill, the Pentagon. I think I bring a lot to the table in as far as experience and knowing what's out there. And I travel like a madman. I mean, under 90 days at home a year.
I was going to ask that.
So it's not like I have a small point of view from a small location. I'm seeing nationwide what's going on.
Yeah,
and I hope to bring that out.
What would you like to see, not just, actually, two questions. What would you like to see veterans do in our community to maybe help bring the community together, add value, support those that need it? And then same question, but for those that are not affiliated with the community.
Well, there's a couple things that they really need to do. First is they need to take care of themselves. If you're not taking care of yourself, you can't take care of others. So that means being proactive with your care. If you think somebody's going to come to you and say, these are all your resources, nobody's going to do it. Not a nonprofit, not the VA, not other agencies. You've got to be able to take care of yourself first and foremost. And then you can maybe look at helping others. And look, that's not a short period of time. I'm still working on myself. I still have issues. I still have, my anger comes out once in a while. My frustrations with the prosthetics come out. It's things I have to constantly work on. But I know and I realize it, and then, I try to help others. Secondly, I think they need to stop complaining. Not everything's a complaint. We know the system's broken. We know there's things out there that you disagree with.
Yeah, people have different point of views or different freaking likes and interests.
But just because we disagree or we have a different interest doesn't mean we can't be friends, that we can't help each other. You don't have to complain about it. And social media, you see it all the time, and I've actually pulled way back from the social media. So just got tired of seeing the complaining. Yeah. That does you no good. Yep. It's like when you're in the elevator and somebody's like, "Oh, how's your day going?" "Oh, I can't complain." "Oh, you could, but nobody would listen." That's how it needs to be. Nobody if you're complaining, just stop. Like, is that benefiting your life in any way? Is that benefiting anybody else's life in any way? It's really not.
The thing I find really weird is that inside of our community, people try to dice up who is cool, who isn't cool.
Oh, man.
Like, you're a vet, but you're not a combat vet, or you're a combat vet, but you didn't really, do the things that I did, or you're a Gulf War vet, and that's not a real Iraq vet, or it's always like, let's try to diminish others, and then inside of even that, then you have like, I'm a conservative vet and I'm a liberal vet, and like, we are such a small community.
Yeah,
we can't dice it up anymore, because it's not like World War II. It was 11.5% of the population. In Vietnam it was 4.3. Now it's half a percent.
Yeah, but that as far as the segregation of the types of veterans, that's always kind of been around. I mean, how many times have you said, I'm a Vietnam era veteran, or I'm a Vietnam veteran? The difference of, were you on ground or were you in the area? So,
but don't you think it's gotten meaner? Like Vietnam vets like to give us crap because they definitely had it worse. But at no point have I ever heard a Vietnam vet like actually diminish.
What I think is it exactly was this bad back then. It's just they didn't have social media to see it on a grand scale. To be quite honest.
Really? You think so?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think guys on the ground in Vietnam had the same freaking piss and vinegar mindset about anybody that didn't come. I mean, think about how think about how the replacements were even treated that came into Vietnam in the years after the the initial push. Like, there was still segregation there, and I mean, I'm sure it's ramped up to a certain degree in regards to more in our time frame now, but I think it was still just as bad. We just didn't have social media to broadcast it across the damn freaking country.
I think it's worse. I think social media makes everything worse, because I think the way the algorithm works is you see things that you like, and you don't see things that you don't like. And so it creates this little pod of, I mean, even think about the infantry, right? All infantrymen here. I don't hate other people. Like I'm not out. Like if I don't even, to be honest, I don't even truly know your politics. And we've talked about issues, but like
surface
I haven't
level,
even asked you like who do you vote for, and I
Sure.
won't.
Right.
But like if you were like, I'm a hardcore, I mean whoever like is just the worst, like as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
I'm not gonna hate you. I'm not gonna think you're stupid. We might have conversations about, this is why I think you're wrong.
Right.
And you hear some things to consider, but I feel like guys that even were in the same unit, I've seen it, like they fought side by side, they have the same experiences, and like one dude comes out and he's like supporting Hillary Clinton, the last election, and this guy who literally, was in the proverbial foxhole with him is like, you're a piece of crap. Like,
No, I mean, yeah.
like where's that coming from?
It's coming from lack of accountability because they're not doing that right next to each other.
Yeah.
I think that's
The keyboard warrior. But, as far as the attitude, like, the comparison of what you did in the military, I think it really, self-care, the validation you need that I actually did something. And there might be some healing in there that if you have to say that you did more than the guy next to you or you were better than the guy next to you, you're probably having some self-doubt of what you actually did in the military. Bottom line is, I don't care if you're reserves, National Guard, Air Force, Marine. Look, if you signed up, you did your job. And the whole machine can't run unless everybody's doing their job. So that's how I view it. Now, in the military, did we pound our chest a little bit? Yeah, different time frame. But now, if you're a veteran, you're a veteran.
Yeah.
And I think for us at this point in working in the veteran service world, I'll work and engage with any era, branch, doesn't matter to me if that person has initiative and drive to want to help themselves. Because I have had plenty of special operations guys, I have had plenty of the top rung guys completely fall out of the bottom, and it's like, oh yeah, absolutely. Like, and that's, you get to a point where you're like, man, just give me somebody that actually wants to do the work that they need to get themselves out of their issues, and it's like, Air Force, Vietnam, I don't care, man. No. Let's do this. Yeah.
Let's pause right there so he can start everything.
In the military, when you're active, we always like to give each other a hard time. It's like part of our charm in the veteran community, but we'll find somebody's weakness and exploit it, and
drive it
on it,
into
just
ground.
beat them with it. But at what point does it stop being funny and it just becomes mean? And if you have differences, it's not necessarily a weakness. You have a difference. You don't have to beat them with it, though.
And I've also seen humor, because I think for the most part, we use humor to deal with the suck.
Nick and I do.
Absolutely,
you
yeah.
try.
I mean, I try, but I'm not very good at succeeding. But then guys take that humor out and they use it when they really shouldn't be using it. And it's happened to me time and time again where it's on the suicide subject where somebody will jokingly bring up, well, I guess I'll just end it, or something nonchalant. And it's just like, nope, you don't get to use humor here, man. This is a serious part of your life. Yeah. And that's the unfortunate reality sometimes of that humor response that we have in the military.
I want to bring back to something that Mike started this with, and that's taking care of yourself. Yeah. And that's the thing. I think it's true with anything that you do, and I think it's messed up when people try to kind of judge people for it, whether you're talking about your personal life or you're talking about business or you're talking about anything. If you are not okay at home, you can't help other people. You just can't do it. If here, like when I get a lot of entrepreneurs, veteran entrepreneurs that are starting, that call me and they're like, oh, we're going to donate like 10% to this and that, and like, pump the brakes. Like that's good. You should do that at some point, but what you should do now is create a viable business, because you go and make that announcement, and then you realize, oh shit, like, because in your head you're like, oh, I've got all this profit, but then you start paying things, and then you're like, oh wait, there's no profit, but now you're paying 10% to whatever.
You've committed.
And what we found over the years is there are years where we've been able to do way more. There have been years where we've been able to do virtually nothing because either a catastrophe occurred or things are going well. And when they're going well, you have, again, personally or in a business, you have lots of flexibility. You know? Oh, I suddenly find myself wealthy. Like, I want to donate to the Gary Sinise Foundation. Or, you know, oh, the company's had a great year. Like, we want to do a charity event, you know, for Chapel Hill Memorial Fund. Or,
Right.
you know, we're able to do these things. But that's true of anything. And I found this a few times where people have put themselves in really bad positions trying to help others, and they have extended themselves personally or privately or whatever, and and really like created like an awful situation. I'm sure you guys have seen that too, but I think
Even emotionally.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
You know, if you're not in an emotionally good spot and you're kind of eating everybody else's bad stuff, then that's not going to
Yep.
put you in a good, healthy place.
And I'm a sucker for that. Like I've done that many times. And you know, my wife is actually usually the one that tries to like cut me off. Like, why are you still, like, you need to back away from this situation for a while. Because
Or even more so of like planning time for yourself. I mean, think about
Oh, yeah.
in the time that we've known each other,
Yep.
I would say that half of that time you were not going to jiu-jitsu and judo on a regular basis at Chapel Hill. You know, like in the early days, you were not doing jiu-jitsu and judo
yeah,
on the same frequency that you're doing it now.
yep,
And that in itself has played, I even just the little bit I see of you, has played a huge part
huge.
of how you are today.
Huge.
And I see how much of a priority it has become to you of like asking you to do something, whereas before you were just free for it all the time, and now it's like, sorry man, jiu-jitsu, got it. You know, like, and it's
Yep.
like awesome. And I think that's where people lose out.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely guilty. of
Scheduling that time.
Yep.
I'm guilty. I struggle with balance.
But it's tough, right? Like, you know, for me, like, all right, I'm a dad first. You know, dad, husbands, like that has to come first, you know. Then I'm an entrepreneur because all of these people are counting on me, and also my family is counting.
And sometimes that line is very
You
tight
know.
together.
Yeah,
Dad and
yeah,
entrepreneur
yeah.
and-
Dad and I, like, you know, when things are good, I get more family time.
Yeah.
When things are bad, I live here. Like I don't really, you know, I literally live at the office.
Yeah.
So then, you know, what else do you do? And like, I don't have a lot of additional time for me, so I have to pick something valuable. And for me, that typically is either jujitsu or reading. You know, when I say jujitsu, that encompasses judo and wrestling.
Training.
Right, training. And at this point in my life, why am I doing this stuff? When I was younger, the goals were different. But at my age, like, I'm not going to go and be world champion in jiu-jitsu. So I'm not training for that. It's not because I want to be able to beat somebody up that starts a fight with me, because cocky as it sounds, like, unless they are a very special individual, I feel like I'm going to win. So it's not that either. It's, I need that hour and a half where Bryce Mahoney is hanging off my back trying to choke the life out of me.
Yeah.
Because in that hour and a half, all I'm thinking about is this guy's trying to kill me. And I don't think about that siren in the background. And we let it go. We don't do any editing
life.
here. We just let it go. No, but
This is how you know it's real, people.
I'm not thinking about, you know, budgets. I'm not thinking about sales. I'm not thinking about stress. I'm not thinking about, you know, whatever's going on with, you know, someone being sick or hurt or what, you know, whatever's, like, none of that stuff is there. It's only Bryce is trying to choke me.
Which rarely happens.
And that is a huge break from life. And the same
From
thing.
the static.
Yeah.
That's really the
Yeah.
static that's going on in your head
So-
of just thousands of thoughts
Yep.
of all different types of things.
Yeah, so-
The 1 hour, the 2 hours you spend in jiu-jitsu, the time I spend rock climbing and reading and all those things, that's what we're trying to do. We're
Shut
trying
off
to
the brain.
Shut the brain down.
Shut off the brain, put the electrical device down, kill the stress,
No, and I mean, I don't, as bad as it sounds, like, because I'm traveling, and I mean, I do get my workouts in the morning, I try to find my hotels that have decent gyms and stuff, and that's my time. And then the other half is, that self-care is I meditate,
it's good.
I do my 20 minutes twice a day, sometimes one, just depending on how they go, but at a minimum, I
Did
do.
you just call me a Dago?
You already knew that.
I did.
So, I mean, we all have to find ours.
Anti-Italianism is on the rise.
But I do think you have to take that time, and I do struggle between work and social life and balance, and some days are better than others.
Yeah.
If I'm busy with work, I'm probably not going to get that social time in.
You're a workaholic.
Yeah,
I am.
it's him and Carl are workaholics.
Oh, I admit it, and I know it, but that's why I struggle with that balance.
Yep.
So talking about Gary Sinise, like you've been involved with him for a while. I feel like they've been involved in the veteran space forever. And I feel like they have a lot of different really cool initiatives going on between the honor flight, between all their other different things that I've seen them be involved with. What was your starting role, and now what are you doing with them now?
I started as the manager, veteran and resource manager. So basically finding the things that are out there that exist for veterans, and kind of talking with veterans to find out what they need. And we would just compile like resources. We understand it's a nationwide thing. What works in DC, where you have, Fort Meade and Belvoir and Walter Reed and all these resources out there. The guy in Iowa City probably doesn't have the same resources. Yep. So where do we send that person, or how do we get the resources to that person?
A lot to like weed through. It's a full-time job for one person to start thinking and seeing those things. Yeah.
And so that premise kind of grew into outreach. How do we really get out to the communities? How do we really impact the veteran community? Mm-hmm. And so now we have an outreach, and we use our relief and resiliency and our hope programs to find the needs of veterans and how we support them. And that includes our first responders. We kind of call our defenders, the people who keep us safe, EMS, police, fire, veterans. We're there to support all of those communities. And now we're looking at, trying to focus on mental health, because from what we see, that's one of the big kickers right now. And then we also see substance abuse, kind of the rise right now. And that's alcohol and drugs. I mean, anybody who's faced traumatic experiences sometimes tries to self-medicate with those things.
Sure.
So those are on a rise right now. And so if we can really focus on making it better for you, or taking some of the financial burden off you so you can get that help, that's what we want to do.
I tell people all the time, because you see it on social, the joking advice that people always give guys, whether they're talking about something traumatic happening, loss of a loved one, divorce, whatever it is, it's always like, oh, go get drunk and I'm
forget about it. Yeah.
I know it's a joke, but I still, anytime I see it, I jump in every time, and I'm like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Go run.
Go
do something, because I've got no, I'm not comparing it to some of these people's stories, but the lowest point in my entire life was after I got divorced, and during that period of time, I drank a lot, and I've always drank, but it's always been casual and in control, and during that period of time, it was I would just go out and have 5 martinis at dinner and think nothing of it, and just and thinking about that period of time, I still cringe at some of the things I said to people or did, or and the good news is I had a history with most of these people where it was they knew I was going through something, they knew this was
resilient.
But, I just basically made the decision, one day, I was I'm not drinking for however long it takes for me to feel normal again. And then now my personal rule is I only drink if I'm in a good mood. If things are going well, happy to drink. Like, but if I'm if I'm upset, if I'm depressed, if things have gone poorly at work, if my wife is mad at me, if like, I'm not drinking in those situations because it only makes it worse.
Yeah, I mean, or even think about the not just like the advice of, hey, go out and get drunk, or the same of like, hey, let's go get a beer. Like, is that really the best atmosphere to be talking about something? And like, hell, even lunch, I've learned now, when people want to meet up and like, if I feel like there's going to be a lot of discussion, I don't want to go to lunch with them because we're both going to be trading fork bites the entire time. And one of us isn't eating.
I will say, I do think it's a little different. Like, if you're like, you know, hey, this bad thing happened, and I'm like, let's go get a beer. That's different than like, hey, bro, go get white girl
Maybe
wasted.
you do the walk first and then go to the beer, get the beer, something like that.
Yeah.
No, I saw it even on social media again. Like, literally, this veteran had posted that he was ready to end his life. I mean, and we talk about the suicide epidemic, and the other veteran's like, dude, I'll fly you out here and we'll just spend the whole weekend getting messed up. Why would you do that? Because one, alcohol makes things worse, depressant, and then you're going to send them home right back to the same environment you just came from. That's causing the issues. So,
and people mean well.
They do.
They mean well. It's not.
But again, you know, I'm not an expert. I'm not a social worker. I'm not a psychologist. You know, I have seen some of the things that
I'm not either, but I'm Italian, and we just know things.
And see, this is also
outside of spaghetti. I don't know what the Italians ever did.
The
Da Vinci,
the most, the longest, empire in the history of the world. But I mean, like,
whatever. Who's counting? Who's counting decades?
I mean, that's socialism stuff.
Well, that's yeah, but the Italians aren't really
Tomato. Tomato.
I mean, are there Italians anymore?
Not really.
Okay.
They've all been bred out.
Is that why you picked the
like
restaurant downstairs to be above? Because it's Italian?
No, that's a French place.
That's a French.
Yeah, that's a French
Oh,
place.
okay.
Yeah.
That's
It's pretty good.
He's hiding in plain sight.
They make the soup of the day is usually good.
The soup du jour.
Yeah.
I'll have that.
No, I'd just say if you're struggling, you know, seek the proper resources. You know, I'm not saying you can't go have a beer with your buddies and talk it out as an initial step, but eventually, if you're in a bad place, go get the help that you really need. And it can be clinical, it can be non-clinical, but there's tons of resources out there.
And I feel like the big thing now, and I feel like Gary Sinise is one of the forerunners in this whole thing, but peer support training. Wounded Warrior Project's getting into it. Team RWB, all these organizations are understanding, like, how do we educate the masses to choose to say, hey man, let's go for a run over, hey, let's go get wasted.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and it's really cool to see organizations, the big ones, leading the charge that way, because they're the ones that are going to push the influence. Because we all could do better on a linear level of helping one another by responding in a different way, just by saying that. Like, just think of how much time we put on just that one statement of like, go get wasted. If that one person had just a little bit better of training to properly assess that person for people like us, because I'm sure Michael will agree with me that most people just throw cases on our laps at sometimes. And we're like,
I've done it.
And you too. I mean,
I've done it to you. Like,
someone,
because we have people call here and they're like, I'm suicidal or whatever. They're calling like customer service, and Regina's like, hands me the phone and, talk to them for a little while. But at the end of the day, like, I am not trained to solve
and there you go. That's
these
another part
15 problems, because people will call and it'll be like, I don't know what to do. Like, my my wife left me. She has the kid. She's not letting me see the kid. Also, I can't make rent. Also, I'm using drugs. Like,
and that's the unfortunate part, because social media.
Well, sir, are you a large or an extra large? No.
So do you want the Bourbon shirt?
Because social media has made it easy for everybody to create their own kind of like advocacy groups, if you will, and they're giving bad information. Yeah. Some of them are.
Yes, they are.
Like using your untrained point. If somebody was to come to me in a crisis where I knew that they were on that level of crisis, I would have a constructive conversation about them getting to the Veteran Crisis Hotline, because I'm not a trained crisis counselor. So I'm going to send them to somebody that is. But hopefully I explain it in some way that they understand. I'm not just pushing them off.
Yeah, you tee it up.
hey,
Yeah.
you don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to them. They're the pros. And that's what we have to continually do with these, the people that are like, hey, I want to start X, Y, or Z. And you're like, hold on. I feel like that's already been started.
Yep.
Why are you not getting on with them and identifying their true reason why they're not?
So professionally right now, you were telling us that you have a big job up ahead. Like, what are your goals for this next year? Like, what are you trying to do?
Well, for the next year, we're really, like I said, the Gary Sinise Foundation as a whole is trying to grow. We've been around since 2011, and we're ready to make that next step. Last year we hired a new CEO. We have a lot of leadership changes throughout the foundation. So one, we want to raise the awareness, but we want to get more services. We want to actually impact veterans' lives for the better. And when I say veterans, again, that's first responders as well. And so how do we do that? And so we have partnered up with a couple other organizations and facilities to provide those services. We're not the experts. We don't do everything. It's impossible for us to be able to do everything. So sometimes we have to go to those other organizations or those other facilities and say, look, when these veterans come to us for help, we want to push them your way. But when we do that, we got to make sure that you're actually able to give them the support they need. We've done a lot with the Marcus Institute for Brain Health, TBI. There's a lot of misdiagnoses out there, people who were misdiagnosed as just PTSD that are actually finding out that they had serious brain damage. And so we're trying to get people out there. So whether it's mental, it's physical, we just want to make sure that they get the care they need and finding the right avenues to be able to do that. So 2020 is going to be a big year for outreach. We're hoping to spread out what we're doing. The bottom line is if a veteran's in need, they need to go to our website. They need to go to the Gary Sinise Foundation .org, go to the contact us, and there's a drop-down window. Tell us what you need. What is it that you're struggling with? And if we can't do it, maybe Gallant Few or one of the other many organizations out there can, and we'll try to at least get you referred out to the right people.
That's great.
I think one of the cool parts about especially Mike and Gary Sinise Foundation is like coming back to this, like trying to keep everything on track. I witnessed him use his influence at a speaking engagement to hopefully change the culture in this whole environment. And what I'm talking about is we were in Colorado and he was up in front of all of the AW2 advocates and basically just was like, hey man, I'm an AW2 alumni and you guys haven't contacted me in 7 years. What the hell is up with that? And just like, boom, threw it out. And you could tell everybody was convicted in that room of like, wow, that is a major deficiency of ours. And like, that's, I think, a big part of what we need in this industry too, is big players out there throwing the hammer down, because there's so much white space and noise out there. To be honest, it's unless you're connected to somebody like him or me or you, it's quite hard to navigate through veteran service. Yeah. It's daunting. Yeah. And the more we can help filter,
whenever people ask,
the better.
Like, who should I support? I ask, what do you want to be involved in? But I mean, essentially, I point them to you, or I point them to the organization that Brian Stan founded years ago, Hire Heroes, because they do a great job.
Yeah.
Those are the three, because there's so many nonprofits.
So many. And they're starting every day.
We're battling suicide. Like, what are you doing? We're putting people on horses, or we're putting like all these things are nice. I'm not saying they're not nice, and I'm glad people are giving back to the community, and they have every right to have those pet projects. But the older I get, the more I look at everything like a business. Like, if I'm investing in you, what is my return? The return I want is you're actually helping people. Like, not for a day, but you're changing their lives. That's the return I want. The impact. When I invest in a nonprofit, I want return. And so I think that's true of anybody. They don't want to, like, I don't want to hear, like, hey, I gave you $1,000 and you bought a suit with it. Like, now, like, that's a problem.
Or the worst, you did nothing with it. Yeah. Like that too. Yeah, you did nothing with it is also just as bad, because I find that happens a lot of the time too. Yeah.
Well, I think there's organizations out there that are just about the numbers. They want to show numbers of that. Look how many veterans I helped.
Yeah.
So whether if you sent me an email, that counts as a number. If you gave me a phone call, that's a number. And so they can say, oh, look, we impacted thousands and thousands of veterans' lives. But did you actually talk to the veteran? Did you actually have communications? Did you actually know what they were struggling with?
Did you do anything meaningful?
So if it's not measurable, that's how we look at it too. But also is like, if I can't provide you that information or that resource, what's wrong with helping another organization? And Bryce was saying how every day there's these new nonprofits starting up, and people come to me all the time. It's like, hey, I have this brilliant idea and I'm going to start a nonprofit. I'm like, that's a great idea, but I can think of 5 other organizations right now that are doing that exact thing. So if that's what you're passionate about, why not support somebody who is already in that space?
It's one of the reasons why we haven't started our own nonprofit, because we've been asked, like, why don't you start a Ranger Up nonprofit? Like, what is it going to do that's different than, if we were to do anything, we'd probably start a program, like maybe a program under Gallant Few or something.
Yeah, it'd be to fund. Like, honestly, I feel like it would just fund the program.
We'll fund the program. No, because, just like anything else, people think everything is easy. That's one of the things that bothers me in general terms. I assume that everything is hard, or else everybody would be good at it. Like people say all the time, like, oh, you just sell T-shirts.
Come on in.
Give it a shot, and not for just like, oh, I'm selling a few hundred T-shirts a month or something. Like, try to run an apparel company for like a long time. See how that goes. Try to run a nonprofit and continuously be able to raise money, and continuously be able to be effective, and continue to change with the times, and differentiate from all of the other nonprofits that are popping up as attention to the war declines, right? Like, there was a period of time where people were just like, here's money.
Dishing it out.
Yeah, that's definitely changing.
Well, people have gotten gun shy. I mean, I think that's a big part of it.
Yeah, of course. Because there's so many grifters, that are raising $100,000 and using 20 of it for the troops, and they have an $80,000 salary.
I see it all the time. That's why vetting is important.
Yeah.
But when you say it's so easy, so having knowing a little bit of background about Gary Sinise, so he thought if he had, started his own foundation, people would just kind of give money to him, and because he had been doing it for so long, and there's a misconception that it was him playing Lieutenant Dan that changed his life to actually start giving back to veterans. But his father was World War II, his uncle was World War II, his brother-in-law and a bunch of his friends were all Vietnam veterans. He was just a little bit too young. And so he had been giving back since like the very early 80s in this veteran space, before it was popular, before anybody was really doing it, pre 9/11. And then what happened from there is he started the foundation. He's like, why are people giving money? Like, so I really thought, because of this, then people would come in, they're like, yeah, but nobody knows that you've been doing this. You don't want accolades, you don't want things, so that's where the awareness has to go in. If people don't see the actual work you're doing, they're not going to be able to give. So you have to have the ability to actually go out there and show them that work. And an idea isn't good enough to get money. Yep. The work is good enough to make.
Well, and two, it's then common.
Let's pause there, because he's.
That's right.
So pick up, just keep that thought. And we'll start right there.
It's even worse because it's people. They plan shop. I mean, it's all about just like very superficial support for certain things too. So that hurts things.
I agree. I mean, we obviously I've had friends who commit suicide. So the suicide epidemic is very close to me, and one I keep an eye on quite a bit. But when those numbers were released from the VA, 22, 23 veterans a day committing suicide, you saw all these organizations. Let's raise awareness. But they weren't actually doing anything.
That's right.
And they took in a lot of money. Yeah. To raise awareness. I'm like, look, the awareness is out there. People know people are doing it. The numbers are out there. The veteran community knows. but where's the meat and potatoes?
Yep.
What are you doing? Are you getting out there? Are you making phone calls? Are you calling them weekly? You know, what's the follow up? And then he saw a lot of these organizations 2 years down the road, they don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So.
It's funny the buzzwords, you know. I mean, like people learn the lingo that they're supposed to start to say, you know. I mean, that surrounds this of transition, you know, awareness, like those things. Like now, those are like alarms going off in my mind when I hear, you know, what are you guys going to do? You know, we're going to bring awareness to the veteran suicide, you know, and you're just like,
awareness is useless. Like, I mean, it's not useless, but with social media, how hard is it to create awareness?
Right.
We've obviously identified that just awareness isn't working. Like, it's not working.
The whole
at all.
veteran community knows 22 people kill themselves
Right.
every
You
day.
know,
Like, you know, whether
What
or not the stat is perfect
is
doesn't matter,
happening.
but like everybody knows it's a real giant problem.
right. I mean, it's like the massive.
I've had friends that tell other people don't commit suicide and then commit suicide.
Right.
Like, they're the ones doling out the advice, and the next thing you know, like.
I mean, if you were literally sitting in a bathtub with a massive hole in the side of your bathtub, that like this 22 today a statistic really is,
Yeah.
you would be. I mean, it would be like, oh my gosh, what do I need to do to fix this hole? And it just doesn't seem like we're really looking at it that way.
Yeah.
You know, it's just we just continue to come back on this awareness thing.
And
You know,
it's hard for people to understand because, you know, like I'm not going to talk about any specific people in detail because I just don't want to, but some of my friends are like multiple college graduates, 6-figure salaries, kids,
yeah.
by all standards, they
Doing
are,
well.
they are
Card carrying member. Yeah.
successful people, and then they kill themselves. And it's so like I am not a person that suffers from depression. I am not a person like, you know, I have been depressed, but so like I don't even understand it, but I know it's different than what maybe you and I think about.
Yeah, it's
with how someone gets there, because it's not A, B, C. It, you know,
yeah.
there's
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, I mean, I feel like it's just impossible for me to even fathom taking my life. Like, at this point, I don't think there was any,
I mean, you would miss me.
you're right. I mean, I don't think that there was anything that would ever happen to me in my life that would take me to that level. But that's just me saying it about myself. And that's the unfortunate part, is I don't get to ask those 10 people that I know why you did that.
Yep.
You know, or at least not.
But all 10 of those could be different. You know?
Sure, absolutely.
And having, you know, been in a position where I wanted to commit suicide, you know, especially through my recovery, and it just
Oh, I can't even
drained on
imagine,
me,
man.
drained
I
on me.
can't
And, you know, I
even
did the article
fucking
for Ranger
imagine.
at that time on suicide.
Yeah.
The best way somebody described it to me one day, and I've kind of used it ever since, is like having a big Olympic-sized pool full of shit and you jump in. When you come up, all you're going to be able to see is shit. Like, it doesn't matter where you look. So you're not seeing 3 years down the road, 5 years, 10 years. All you can see is
Just
what's
in the
right
shit.
there.
Yeah, man.
And it's overwhelming. And, you know, you go a little to the left, go a little right, you're still in the shit. Like, how do you get out of it?
Yeah.
Well, eventually you got to pull yourself out. You know?
How did you get through it?
You know, for me personally, I had a great support network. You know, I was never really left alone. I had great friends, veteran community, and eventually I found purpose. You know, the thing that I was lacking at that time was purpose. You know, my purpose during that time frame was survival.
Survival,
You know,
yeah.
survive the injury and get through all the medical procedures and stuff. And
And that
yeah,
sucks.
it was
I
miserable.
Can't imagine.
You know, and again, I couldn't see 3 years down the road where I had prosthetics and could feed myself or do household chores or have a job. But eventually, time also helps with that too. But you still have to get out of that pool of shit at some point. And you know, that's the thing that we have to help them with is circumstances. And you know, the veterans. You know, what I explain to people is we face everything that everybody else faces. So relationships, money, job, finances,
All of it.
all
We are
this
no
stuff,
different.
we're no different than anybody else.
Yep.
And then we tack on some veteran stuff on the military aspect on it a little bit. But chances are that veteran is committing suicide for a lot of the same reasons that everybody else is committing suicide. They were put in a predicament that they felt they couldn't get out of. And it's bottom line. It doesn't matter if it's a combat
Yeah.
situation, a relationship, money. The bottom line is they found themselves in a position that they lost hope.
Yep. Yeah, and I think what you said before about how much you need a support network,
Bingo.
how critical that is. So, like, I get called a lot by a lot of different people, some of which would surprise you, about advice with relationships, business, family, whatever. And I think I give pretty good advice, and at the end, people are like, "Wow, that was really
Let's say
good."
you're 75%. I've told you
Yeah, all of his
before.
advice for me is that I talk too passive aggressively.
You do. But where I was going with this is, I typically like, "Oh, thanks, man. Like, I you give really good advice." I'm like, I give the best advice in the world to everybody that isn't me,
Yeah, that sounds good, man.
right? Because when you're in it, something that, like, if you did something dumb, or you were making a decision, or you didn't know what to do, I can see it for you because I'm not in it. I'd be like, "Oh, this is what's going to happen if you do this, Bryce. This is where you're going to end up, Mike. If you make this decision, this is what's going to happen. Like, oh, so-and-so did this. Like, here's how you have to handle it." It's easy because I'm not neck deep in it.
Right.
But when you're in it, especially if things are going bad, you start thinking and worrying, like, well, what is she thinking about this? Or is so-and-so really on my team, or is he against me? Or, like, you start going to this crazy place, like, none of it matters. But in your head, you're drowning.
You're fighting a bunch of people, a bunch of theories, basically, in your head a lot of the time.
Theories. And then, in your situation, it's like, is it going to get better than this?
Right.
Am I going to be,
Yeah.
like, you were a crazy active dude before the injury. Like, I can only imagine that was a giant pain in the ass on a level that.
I was consumed in it. I mean, my thought every single moment of the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep was basically, how do I off myself? Again, I wasn't left alone. I had that support network. So that got me through it, because had I been left alone for a period of time, I probably wouldn't be here, because I would have found a way. So you think about that isolation aspect, especially these veterans who live in remote areas where you don't have resources, or there's not a VA for them to go to that's close by. Social media might be the thing. And then, if you're in a bad mood and you see a lot of the negativity on Facebook, that can even enrage you more. So it is just a tough situation to be in. So, I don't judge anybody. I'm not mad at anybody. I'm sad I lost my friends, because they lost hope. They lost their purpose, or they felt like it was never going to get better. But ultimately, if we can help the veterans that are feeling that way, just see a little bit, maybe that's enough for them to pull themselves out.
I think purpose is so important because it actually carries you over anything. There's a recent article that I just read. I'm probably going to name the wrong school, but I believe it was MIT.
Wrong.
Good call. No.
I believe it was MIT, but essentially, like, regardless, there's a study that essentially has found that the natural human state is not happiness.
Happiness is
It's
something you
it's
have to verb.
It's a moment.
Yeah.
And so when if we're constantly told, do what makes you happy, do what makes you happy, do what makes you happy, but the reality is that our natural state is not happiness. And so if you're always pursuing that feeling, you're most of the time going to be disappointed.
Right.
But if you're working towards something, and this I can speak to me personally. Sometimes it's like a long night. I'm in the office, or I'm doing a workout that sucks, or whatever. Like, I am able to say, well, I'm doing this because I'm trying to get to the next place with the business. I'm trying to get healthier. I'm trying to get, like, there are goals that I have that drive me, whether it's charitable, business, personal, that I know I have to do X, Y, and Z to get there. And it removes this need to be happy. I expect to suffer on my path to these goals, and it makes it okay. If there are no goals, you just sit there and you're like, I'm suffering. This isn't right. I think everyone else is happy, but they're not. Like, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like, it's
Perception.
I mean, it's the difference. It's understanding the difference between joy and happiness.
Yep.
And joy being something like
Is it primary?
I want to get comfortable for one of these Bryce
you
moments.
should,
I love
because the feelings, what carried you through all the shit that happened here was the joy of knowing that at the other side of it, you were going to overcome a very large part of it. You know, a very large like down setback in Ranger Up. So you kept that joy in your mind of like, we're going to get through this no matter hell or high water. And you used happiness in spurts to keep you going. Because as a friend of mine likes to say, happiness is a full belly. Sooner or later, you're going to have to eat again. And
pretty good.
And that's where people see happiness every day. They see the little fragments of happiness in people's lives. They don't see the joy, which includes the lessons that come with the downtimes. And that's where if you can help coach your community, your people that you're around to experience joy and happiness separately from each other, we tend to respond better to when shit hits the fan on our lives.
But the thing with happiness is it's subjective to the moment. So, like you said,
Absolutely.
Having a full belly. So you take a kid who was abused growing up.
Yep.
You know, when he finally gets to leave home, he's happy. But really, he's still full of anger and all these different issues because, you know, the three primary emotions that you have is fear, sadness, and joy. So everything that you feel in life is based off those three things. Now there's secondary emotions and all that stuff. So that he was happy in the moment.
You guys are at a psychological level that is much higher than mine. And so I'm like, I have like hungry. You're like
Thursday.
You're like the quaternary area.
That's a tertiary feeling.
Like, whoa.
But so I
Go on,
think so. You know you can be happy with something that's actually very damaging to yourself, but you feel happiness based off that singular moment. The joy is the thing that is the thing that is ultimately going to bring you what you think is happiness. And for me, it's my purpose. You know that I get up every day, literally out of bed every day to get back to the veteran community, and it is what really drives me and pushes me and my friends and stuff.
You're
like
one
that.
of the only people that, when you say that, I believe it 100%.
So
Not Bryce.
I think if I didn't have that, I would not be in a good place. Honestly,
Yeah.
Like I truly believe I would be in a dark place if I didn't have that.
Because it's part, I mean, I think we're getting there in the realms of like, we understand that the key to figuring out this suicide, this loneliness, this anxiety problem, this separation anxiety is to connect people. Now the next step in it is to educate those connected people on how they can properly communicate with each other. Because let's face it, I mean, we have so limited time on this earth with each other. I mean, use our relationship as an example. We have known each other long enough that, like, if you had a problem with something that I was doing that you knew about, you would feel comfortable enough to bring it up. And I would expect you to do that to me. And that's where, we come back to why social media is not a good thing. It's because it is forcing people, or it is creating this element where people are communicating and connecting with people outside of that bubble that they can really drill into and meet and communicate on a physical level to create those areas of communication.
That false state of connection.
Yeah, social media was once about connection. It's now about judgment.
Absolutely. I think so.
It's, we want to go out there, we want to judge other people in order to make ourselves feel better about our belief system. And it's really dangerous for a lot of reasons. One, it creates incredible negativity. Like, we've had to, I've had to be careful with, like, my kids, for example, pulling them, like, not allowing them on social media for various reasons. Because it's poison. It really
Total
is
poison.
Like, takes away innocence, takes away positivity, takes away optimism.
I think about like those old movies, or even new movies, but like the suburbia type movie, and you always had the gossiping people talking behind everybody's back who knew everything. It was always, and it was addicting, and people started listening to them like, oh, what's going on? That's social media now.
Yeah.
It's all the gossips. It's always, what's in your business.
Yeah.
But it's never the truth. And that's, even my life, the stuff I pick and choose what I put on social media, some of it is as close you're going to get to me, and some of it's just, events and
False information.
Yeah.
But you don't see my bad days unless I choose to put my bad days on there.
I try, actually, like for years, I've tried to also put out the bad stuff. And we've talked about this before, I think, so I don't want to belabor the point, but I do it for veterans and for entrepreneurs, like to talk about, hey, this month was real shitty and here's why. Here are the things that happened to me. Here's, how I think I'm going to overcome it, or here's how I overcame it. Because if I want to, I could make Ranger Up look like a $300 million company. I could put out only pictures of me doing badass stuff with badass people.
Well, you are. You're basically filming it right now.
It's true. But, but we could, we could pretend that there's never a bad day here. And then you watching it and you're having a bad day and you're like, man, how is this guy just
always
living
on?
large?
Yeah.
Like, that's not the truth.
No.
Right.
Like there's tons of bad days, and when I have them, I try to use them as instructive tools to kind of get through it. Try not to make the same mistakes that I make.
Yeah, I still would say that I pick and choose a little bit. There's certain things that I'm very open about, certain beliefs and certain things I'm doing. But then there's just some parts that I believe that people don't need to be in my life. Like,
Sure.
Like if you go on my social media, very seldom do you ever see anything relationship based.
Yeah.
Nobody knows. I just keep that off social media.
It's not worth it, because then you break up with somebody, and then like some other person, it doesn't even have to be the person you're with, like decides they need to weigh in on the breakup, and like
Right.
then beef is created for no reason, and
What I would really love to see more of, and it comes back to this, like we just don't have a lot of time, is people being able to develop candor, being able to provide honesty and accept it and expect it in return. Like we just don't have enough time as human beings to fuck around anymore, and like I don't have time to spend my life around people that aren't really being honest with me, and it happens to me all the time where you guys, me, I'm like I try to be the nicest guy to every person that I can possibly be. And people are that way back to me. And I hear of these situations where like these people hate me, and I'm just like, don't even bother me. Like don't even waste your time. You're not wasting mine with it. I love the engagement. But if you hate me so much, why are you even wasting my time being fake with me?
Right.
Yeah.
Like
I
it's
also
unfortunate.
I don't know about you guys. Like I detest platitudes. Like if we're like someone starts building you up before asking you a question or something, like
Yeah, my dad.
I don't need
Blow that
this.
smoke all you want.
I don't need this. Let's just get to it and tell me the bad thing or the good thing or whatever.
I mean, I was gonna join the military, but like,
no, just like like, oh, he's one of the most whatever.
yeah.
I get that so
I'm
much.
sure you do.
And it bothers me like you said.
Well, it's canned a lot of the time.
It's
Because think about it, think about how many people you touch, on a
And I'm not talking
and
about the
see
guy
you.
who's like genuinely excited because like you wrote something or you said something years ago that like made a difference in him. I'm cool with that. But I'm talking about the
No, I love people who support the military, but the professional military supporters, and some that I will classify as that way.
That's a good term.
Man, sometimes I'm just like, enough's enough. Like every single day, you don't have to comment on one of my posts about how great I am doing or what an inspiration I am, or every single day. Like I don't need that.
Yep.
Like
I need to see pictures of you
yeah.
being motivated and doing in your community to
and
motivate me. That's more of what I need to see.
words can motivate me for a short period of time, but action obviously is going to motivate me more. But when they come to me just all the time and just, oh, you're so great, I'm like, enough. Like
motivation is overrated.
yeah.
I'm not motivated a lot. I still come to work. I'm not motivated a
Oh,
lot.
that's commitment.
Yeah. Commitment.
Right, but that's what matters, right?
Yeah.
Like motivation is, I can listen to the Rocky soundtrack and I'm motivated, but like that, how long does it last?
I woke up this morning to go to do PT at 5 and like totally didn't want to. And sat on the side of my bed for 10 minutes and was finally like, of course I have to go because people are counting on me.
Go do it.
It's commitment.
But we said that in the military, though. False motivation is still motivation.
That's it.
Let's be honest. We do a lot of things we don't want to do.
Liquid motivation.
I mean, isn't that why they make pre-workout?
That's it.
All right, so we're gonna have to wrap up soon. Is there anything else that you kind of want to get into while we have you here? We don't get you here that often because you're always so busy.
No, I just want people to be active, and seek the help that they really need. I mean, we beat it all the time with that horse, but from somebody who's on the road all the time, there's a lot of need out there, a lot of serious need. We have people who are truly unhappy, and it's not even veterans. It's just, I'm going to classify it as the population as a whole now.
Yeah.
They're angry, they're offended, they want to be heard. I think a lot of the issues that we're having nationwide right now is because people feel like they're not being heard. And even if they're putting it on social media, it's not like they're really being heard. They're checking how many likes they have or how many comments, trying to get that dopamine fix.
People get anxiety over people that have. I'm not even talking about people like us that we kind of a part of our life has to involve social media because we're trying to reach out to populations. But like regular people are getting anxiety because they posted a picture of
kids
of their kids or them on the
kids are getting anxiety over this stuff.
Yeah, and it matters to them. Like, I usually get 25 likes, but I only got 19. Like, what's going on? Do people not like me? Like,
yeah.
I honest to God, like, I'm super happy that I grew up when I did. Where, to me, social media, even though I essentially make a living doing social media stuff, to me, it's not meaningful. Every single day, I get people that tell me that I'm garbage, and every single day, I get people that are like,
"You're the greatest.
You're amazing." And I'm not saying like it doesn't matter because I appreciate people, but I'm not going to let those comments affect my day-to-day life. Because if I did.
On the down days when they didn't show up, it would really affect you.
It would shred me.
Yeah.
It would shred me.
Absolutely.
I mean, people say crazy shit. Like and they're comfortable saying things where like, if you were like, hey, Nick, blah, I've known you for a long time, I'd probably punch you, But they're completely fine saying that on social media.
Yeah.
Like.
But again, but it's not just social media. Look at, protests have always been around.
Yeah.
But it's at a new level. The
unhappiness is at a new level, I think.
And that's really what it is. So I think
total unhappiness.
So there's a theory out there that mankind is designed to have a struggle and a fight. And when there is no struggle or fight to be had, it creates one.
Right.
If you think about, we are still wired, evolution is slow. We are still wired as if we were cavemen. We're still wired the same way. Like, we have not evolved to some.
The environment has just changed, but we're still who we are.
The environment has changed. So, life is good now. If you're in America, outside of certain populations that, but for everyone, like the poorest Americans are still making 32% more than they did 5 years ago.
Right.
Like, life is better for everyone, but the perception is that it's worse.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And I wonder, and I don't know if you guys have any insight, but I wonder if it's because there really isn't a true struggle right now.
Well, everybody struggles, and I would disagree with that.
Everybody has a
Their personal struggle, right? So, and you go down, what is, I'm blanking on it, but the one who's best, something of the severest school. That's talking about, who's lived through that struggle.
Heraclides.
Yeah. So, sometimes they say, the disabled veterans who have physical injuries, tend to do a little bit better because we face that struggle and stuff. But I think it doesn't go just by struggle. I think service to others. It's always been like, who do you volunteer with, or who are you giving your time with, or I help coach that little league team, or the soccer team, the football team. Everybody's gonna struggle, but what are you doing for somebody else? I think we're giving, that humanity and that compassion. So if you're just ignoring that part of your life, I just think you're just pushing things down. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think we're really.
Let's pause, pick up where you are, and then let's figure out where we want to close.
Cool.
Oh man, I forgot.
You forgot what you were going to say.
I did. I'm serious.
Well,
serious.
I mean, honestly, it comes to what you're doing right now. Trying to teach people how to be peer mentors. That's service to others.
That's right.
So.
Yeah, it's. I think I was talking about just this. We don't encourage selflessness as much as we used to anymore. It's all, what can I do for myself? We don't teach keeping doors open for people. And I think as corny as it sounds, it starts with Mr. and Mrs., sir and ma'am, and yes ma'am and no ma'am, and yes sir and no sir, and like those are gone. People don't call people like that anymore, and it starts at Nickelodeon and Nick Jr. You look at any parent out there, you'll agree with me that it's the shows that depict real people, where the kids are smart, the dad is a dope, and the mom is running everything.
Yep.
And that's what's cultivating this lack of respect and lack of selflessness into the children that are moving into unhappy parents, because social media is showing them a positive world, an unbalanced, positive perspective world that they're not a part of because they're not able to do that.
So that's interesting. Like I don't ever like to blame content for kids. I know where you're going with it. But at the end of the day, my kids act the way that they do because of what I have allowed or not allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Like there is nothing else. Like there really isn't anything else. There are these outside influences, but it's happened a few times in my life where there have been outside influences that have caused behavior that is unacceptable, and like I fix that, or more likely Suze does because she's a man,
right?
But I think that what we're seeing, what you described, where the dad is a doofus and the mom runs everything, is there is this desire to, correct the situation where, that is referred to it like the patriarchy and all this stuff.
Yes.
And so
equalize the family, if you will.
In order to do that, the lazy way of doing it is invest in women, build women up, but also degrade men. And that probably is the reason why you have so many guys that have a hard time with feminism.
Cool.
Because like if you take the idea of feminism at face value, then I'm a feminist. Like I think women should have all the opportunities that men have. I think they should not be discriminated against. Like that is a baseline. If you don't feel that way, you're kind of an a-hole.
Yeah,
right? But like where feminism has gone is like we need to take things away from men, break men down. Men are stupid. Men cause wars. Men cause this. Every problem we've ever had comes from men.
But real feminists will say that's not accurate.
Correct.
They'll bash those too.
But third wave feminism has become a very different thing, which is essentially like every problem there is anywhere is because men are the worst.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and I think at the end of the day, if I feel like if we could really coach and put one thing on any person that we ever connected with, it would be the understanding that this drive for purpose is going to be one of the hardest journeys you ever go on.
I like how you're doing this, and we've got the cops.
I know, it's just great. Being patriotic.
I'm kind of sad though, because originally it was the fire truck, and I was like, okay, I'm a burn guy. They did that on purpose.
We don't study it. But having somebody with the understanding of, look, you're finding your purpose and doing your purpose is going to be one of the hardest things that you do in your life, and it's going to be something you have to feed every single day, and nobody else can do this for you. You have to consistently seek it out for yourself. If I could lay that on the amount of people that I connect with, we'd be in a whole different situation than we are right now. It's just that constant, like every single day waking up of like, what could I possibly do today to better myself first and then anybody around me? And if we just said that to ourselves once a day, I think it would change things around. And I that's my number one goal, is to educate people on how that they can create that within themselves.
All right.
Mic drop.
So with that, Mike. So with that, what are you up to? Where are you going in the next 6 months?
Coast to coast. I mean, if you saw my travel schedule, it's everywhere and with very, very little downtime. I actually, after I leave North Carolina, I do get to go home for a week, and then the schedule pretty much goes out the rest of the year. We have events, programs, vetting processes. So life doesn't stop. Life just keeps pushing forward, hopefully for the betterment of others. And that's pretty much what it is. But again, Gary Sinise Foundation is growing. We have a big mission ahead of us. We have a lot of work to do. And we have a great team that behind us. I mean, we couldn't do it with everybody at the foundation. So
yeah, and for you, I know before this job, you didn't do a whole. I mean, you were touching a lot of different things, like coordinating and being involved with it. But you personally only did a few events, like going to Boulder Crest,
right,
for instance. Are you still going to continue to do certain things like that personally, or now with this new role, you're kind of you got too much going on now?
So I do have to attend a certain number of events, okay, but
every time Mike starts talking.
But see, we're back to fire.
PTS, baby.
Yeah, I wish I had my flame arms still. Yeah.
Those were the best arms. Those were the best ones.
Yeah, but no, I think I still have to have some hands-on. But as the department gets bigger, I will step away from some of those things. And it's as things get bigger and you get more people underneath you, you're going to have to disseminate some of those roles. But I have faith that I'll have the right team to be able to accomplish everything. I mean, I have some workhorses right now. They put in tons of hours, way more work than what we pay them, unfortunately. We're a nonprofit, every dollar counts. But there's not one person I can think of at the foundation that isn't earning their paycheck right now.
That's awesome. That's great to hear. Any parting thoughts for us? You don't have to. If you don't have it, we'll give it to Russ.
It's almost time for another Ranger Up Big Bash.
We
have
been talking about that.
I used to plan every couple of years, okay, which Ranger Up event am I going to go to?
We should.
True.
We have not had or you haven't had what I consider a big Ranger Up Bash in a while. When's the next one?
It's a good question.
We've talked about it. I mean,
it's a good question.
Because I want to know when I can come back out here.
Yep.
And drink on your dime.
I feel like
you could come to DC this weekend, but that's not really.
I just came from there though.
I'll tell you what, we will plan one, and you will be the guest of honor at the bash.
Yes.
Or you can just come. Which one do you want?
Do you want me to bring Lady Gaga if she's still single?
Yes.
Because obviously,
yes. The answer to that will always be yes.
Please.
Or whoever
I
was
definitely
talking that week.
Yeah.
I mean, especially with the new office, I definitely think a Ranger Up Bash is in order for sure.
Yeah. Probably do need a Ranger Up Bash.
And I look forward to the theme because they always had a theme too.
It was typically Miami Vice. We like.
We did that.
We like to keep it Miami Vice.
But that white suit doesn't look as good as it used to that I wore last time.
Trust me, I understand.
There's bear stains on it now.
Oh my God, is that Boss Hog?
Yikes.
Well, thanks for coming on the show,
thanks,
man.
Mike.
We're excited to have you. Hope to have you again soon. And with that, this was Leather Talk. Leather Talk. Leather Talk. The leatheriest show that there is.
And remember, if you have guests in mind for Leather Talk for us, make sure you get in touch with us, comment, whatever. Let us know who you want us to have sitting on this luxurious leather.
This sweet leather.
Or if you know somebody who can write their theme song so we don't have to listen to that.
That too.
Otherwise, it's going to keep getting
It's going to get longer and longer.
Thanks, guys.